Smile again. And then we would walk a million more. All right? And so everything that's coming today, it's coming together today, all started back here in 2012. This is when two students came to me. Whoops, oh, I don't want that one. Help. You're going to be meeting Kevin. He's our technician. I want you to go to the next slide.
Next slide.
Yeah. So, it was back in 2012 when two students came to me and said, Peg, we really need to march in this overnight walk in San Francisco. It's 18 miles, and it's put on by American Federation of Suicide Prevention, and they convinced me that I could do this. So I trained for it. I went on 1 4-mile hike a couple weeks before, and then I start the journey with them. These two students, I'll meet them in a few minutes, but these two students, Sharon Schultz and Cindy Marks, they're off to the big school, moved on, and they really left us quite the legacy. So what we have today is, we have Life is Worth the Walk. Where are my Life is Worth the Walkers? And we have NAMI on campus, ARC. Yes, we have this. We're also in Club Day, so we have some of our members over there at the tables. And Randy, we've got the ARC. You said you wanted to introduce your design hub.
So hi, Peg came to, actually one of Peg's students came to us a while ago and said, God, wouldn't it be cool if one of our interns could work for her? And now we have what, 6, 7? So the Design Hub jumped on board. We have Kevin here who's done a ton of the programming, along with Saren, who is now at Chico State, and we've got Brad and a couple others. So Design Hub is here to support all the cool stuff that we do, and so there we go. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more.
Okay, so with this, I'm just going to stand behind here and click. Here is Sharon Schultz and Cindy Marks. This is after a delirious night, 18 miles, up and down San Francisco. I had my inhaler in my pocket, and we did it. And in the morning, there was about 2,000 people there. In the morning, we walked to the ocean. We had luminaries there, each representing someone we lost or some buddies we lost. And we walked into the lightness. And we realized we weren't alone. And we realized there is a huge, huge problem out there. And this, we know, suicide can be prevented. So on the ride home, Cindy and Sharon, actually they just love the name, Life is Worth the Walk, and we're so proud of the team that they created. They decided that we needed to form a club on campus. And this club was formed to advocate for student legislation. We'll talk more about that. Organizing wellness fairs, which they have been doing since 2012, and which we are still doing today over by the cafeteria. Supporting the local walks for AFSP and the NAMI local walk, and then providing peer support groups and providing education and resources. We couldn't do it all. There was just no way. You know, these student clubs, 6 to 12 people, and I don't know about you, but I have papers to grade. Do you have tests to take? Yeah. So I had a student, Jeff Vandervoort. It was last fall, right? You were in stats, and we started to talk about a lot of things. And I was telling you about, hey, we just can't get support groups off. I'm not a trained therapist. And you came up with, you and Larry Lozino from NAMI came up with, let's start a NAMI club. you want to say a few things about that?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Vandervoort. I'm the president of NAMI on campus. And it was just really important to me as a student who's had hard times of my own. And I'm a combat veteran, and I have my own issues that I deal with every day. And I know so many other people do too. And we just really needed to be able to build a community to help each other so we can all grow, you know? And with the help of Peg Scott and everything, we were able to set all this up. And with Randy from the Design Hub, we're really trying to get things going and trying to bring resources to the people who actually need them. And you know, I just think it's a great thing for all of us to be involved in. And I thank you guys for coming out here, showing your support.
So, as a proud mother and facilitator of the student club, let me show you where we have been. We've advocated for students. We've advocated for students as far as capping college costs, housing and food insecurity, mental health, and social justice. Join our club. Every spring, we hit the Capitol. We hit the Capitol. This is back in 2000, where this is prior to the actual club, but this is students coming together, making a difference for you sitting in these seats today. In 2000, tuition was $11 per unit. The legislature, in all their wisdom, wanted to double it. 10,000 students, faculty, administrators, teachers' unions got together and walked on the Capitol, and they did not raise it a cent. I'll tell you, if we had let them get away with doubling it in 2000, it's $46 today per unit. What do you think it would have been? You math, you know the exponential, right? Yes. So we, you know, those students back there stood up for you. And other things, I stuck this slide in because of the sign, education is the health of the nation. Education is the future of this nation. In 2014, we started focusing more on housing insecurity, hungry students, and we wanted to change the narrative on California community colleges from here. You just come in and you take your class, get your certificate or degree, to the whole person, to addressing what you've left behind in the parking lot. And with that, we know many of our students have housing and food insecurity and have many issues in just real time, in real life. So 2015, Charlotte, where did you sit? Charlotte Groth. Yes, a big. And I'm just going to talk to you, Charlotte, because Charlotte, you and Maddie Hyatt wrote a proposal for a bill, the mental health. And we missed the timing. Hey, we didn't know what we were doing, right? We missed the timing, but we lobbied it. We lobbied it over and over and over again. And from that, we felt at least we are educating. We're educating the staff, our assembly people, our senators, so that they know at the community college we don't have a wellness center like the universities do. We don't have a crisis counselor. And with that bill, Kevin McCarty and Darrell Steinberg picked it up, Charlotte. Those hours, they picked it up, and it became AB 2017. We lobbied outside the Capitol. We lobbied inside the Capitol. And folks, look at, these folks are coming back. Here's Cindy, here's Sharon, your instructors, Susan Howe, Dean Murakami, all here doing much more besides grading papers, but fighting for you. We went to the legislator's office. We're having way too much fun there. So we lobbied in the halls. And Charlotte, for those of you that have lobbied, you know you wait in the halls for hours for that 9:30 testimony, right? And then you go get lunch and you come back at 1 and you wait for hours. And so we got to know each other. Do you see our Frankie Johnson? Yeah. Yeah. I testified on behalf of AB 2017, and you stood up and backed my testimony again and again. And there's our Susan right at the beginning. Your instructors care about you. Your instructors love you. And your instructors want the best for you. Well, we didn't stop there. Social justice. You know, we know what's happened in the last couple years. This came out, and the Life is Worth the Walk Club said, oh my gosh, can we make a few copies? Well, what are we on, a $200 a year budget? So we formatted it and got 10 copies made, and then sent the file to the LRCFT, the Los Rios Community College of Teachers. They took that, added their logo, and now you see this all over the district. So the littlest pebble in a pond can cause a ripple. We marched in the Women's March this last spring. We really do have quite a lot of fun. And we do have burritos afterwards, right? Yeah. But, you know, what did Maya Angelou say? Each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. Men and women alike stood up for an injustice. So, this is a woman I was so fortunate to meet. She too was in the Women's March, and she'd been around for a long time. And she had been a WAC. And I had shook her hand and I said, you're my mother. You're my grandmother. My mother was a WAC. My grandmother in the 1920s lobbied for women's rights. It's amazing how we all come together. So wellness fairs at club days. This is what we're doing today. Charlotte, there you are. And Melanie was a student that kept this club afloat in some really lean years. And Cindy should be here today, but you know, they grew up and they went on with life. So, over the years, we have had many organizations, and I want you to really notice NAMI Sacramento. Where did our NAMI folks go? Right here. They'll be talking soon. Yes, a big hand for them. Larry Lozino, you know him. Yes, do you? Yeah. He is, you got to get to know him. He is a doll. He's a very quiet man that is at our tables every single club day for the last 5 years. And he was the one that you worked with, Jeff, to make what you'll be talking about soon happen. We are supported by other organizations, Each Mind Matters, the Faculty Association of California Community College, NAMI and TLCSR regulars, AFSP, and several other organizations visit us from time to time. We stole a play from the AFSP playbook in which every color represents a significant loss. White is for a child due to suicide. And so with this, we make necklaces, we make bracelets, we make pins. Love all kinds. We just sit down to be with one another and to support one another and to take a time out and just breathe. We support the AFSP Out of the Darkness Walk each fall. There we are this spring, Michelle Lazard. Okay, Michelle Lazard is on the board of members of NAMI, and she was also instrumental in getting NAMI here. Oh, Patrick. Patrick, I know you're here. Woo, 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 woo. Anybody else? Am I missing anybody else? But that 24 of us walked, and we raised $290 for AFSP. NAMI, each May, we go to William Land Park and have a great time, okay? And the words of wisdom. You are not your thoughts. Everything that you are is enough. And I just put my own. A test does not define you, okay? And so we have all kinds of staff, faculty. We have Orneet, the head of our union here. We have my son, okay? He's used to being dragged to these things. Okay, and so why are we here? I'm going to steal a line from Tupac Shakur. If you saw a rose growing from the concrete, would you critique its damaged petals or try to help it grow? He says, don't ask me why, thank God, and ask me how. So we're roses growing from the concrete, and how are we going to make this a better place? We started with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need to make sure our students have shelter and food. We need to make sure they are safe and secure. And then they have social needs. They feel supported. Only then can we start opening our brains to new information. But we can update this theory, and we have a powerful tool. It's called Wi-Fi. And this is the tool that we'll be using to bring resources out to the community. We will start very simply with shelter and food. We have a few medical and mental health, but we need this populated, and Randy and Kevin will talk about that intricate process that they have put together so we can make sure we have good, solid, dependable resources for our students. This is all based on data. You just don't sit down and say, oh, we should do that, and oh, we should do that. No, we scoured the research. A Wisconsin Hope Lab. They reported that housing insecurity in community college is 51%. That's couch hopping. I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight. Homelessness, 14%. Food insecurity, 33%. And Mona, can you talk about hungry, homeless, and in need of medical care?
So this is Obelisa. She was a student here. Last semester was her last semester. She came here from Nigeria. She wanted to give her family a better life. She came with her husband. Her husband left her, and she wound up homeless, but she still came to school. She still wanted to try to become a nurse. That was her goal, to be a nurse. And last semester, they found her dead in her car. She was homeless. She was there for a couple days in the Rayleigh's parking lot out in Rancho Cordova. So me and another student, and well, let me rewind a little bit. How I found out is I received a call from another student who said, hey, do you remember this person? I'm like, yeah. You would never know she was homeless. She was always smiling. She did the best she can, pushing through. When I got the phone call, me and her decided that we were going to try to help get funds because the only she has one child who lives in Nigeria and 3 grandchildren, and so we were trying to figure out a way to get her daughter out here to see her mom one last time. It had been 3 years since she's seen her mother. So we started a GoFundMe, and we put the information out. We weren't able to get the daughter out here. I'm still in contact with the coroners. They have her cremation, so now we're trying to figure out how we can get the ashes back to Nigeria. The GoFundMe is still alive and active and well, but she died. The cause of death was diabetes, so I'm pretty sure she didn't know that she had that issue. She was sleeping in her car. She actually had to figure out somewhere to sleep, so she got a car, and with her financial aid money, that's when the story started unraveling. That's what she did, use her financial aid money to get a car so she wouldn't sleep on the streets. And that's her story. So what she's talking about is some serious stuff. It's really happening. There's a lot of students out here that they're pushing through. They're trying to do something better, but there's so many things, so many barriers. Their needs aren't being met. No roof over their head, no food. They come here, I always put it out there. For example, I do homeless feeding. I go to the homeless area and do homeless, and I try to bring it to people's awareness. Imagine if you were, right now today, every day had to go lay on the concrete because you didn't have nowhere else to go. Where would that take your mind? If you were hungry and you didn't know what else to do, just last night on the news, they were talking about how the homeless people are being ticketed for being homeless. But these are our students. This is our community. So I think that's about it. If there's anything else you want me to say? Okay? All right. Thank you. You guys have a good
So we have hungry, homeless, medical care. We also have mental health. I teach statistics, I can't help it, okay? 1 in 4 students have diagnosable mental health problems. 40% of these students with mental health problems go untreated. 61% of students come from low-income families. If you can't eat, you can't buy your books, how are you going to get therapy? How are you going to pay a copay to even go see a doctor? And if that doesn't pull your heartstrings, and we most certainly took these numbers into the legislature, there is a business argument. Wisconsin Hope Lab has shown that when community colleges spend, for each dollar they spend on mental health investments, they get $11 back. So there's a business argument here as well. If you don't treat mental illness and depression, anxiety, these are treatable brain disorders. What happens? You go down this vortex. And with this, what we know is suicide is the second leading cause of death for college students, right behind accidents. In the general population, if we look at suicide and we look at homicide in the United States, we are twice as likely to kill ourselves than to be killed by somebody. And if you're like, Peg, we are so done with statistics, I'll bring it down to a very personal note. I'm here in loving memory of my son, William Scott Durazo, who took his life on June 30th, 2010. And he was one of you. He just finished up at El Dorado Center and was about to start American River College. His mom was a psychologist, for crying out loud. You know, it doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. But what makes sense to me is that we really embrace one another and be there for one another. So what can we do now? And I'm going to turn this over to my NAMI support group, Jeff and...
This is
Eric Bailey.
Eric Bailey with NAMI, and he's going to talk about our support groups that we're setting up.
Thank you. So I work with NAMI Sacramento, and some of the things that we do in the community is offer a free support group service for individuals with a diagnosis and also for people who are family members or friends of somebody with a diagnosis. Here on campus, it's really important that we start facilitating this sort of activity amongst our peers in the community, in the student body, here on campus as well. Primarily because without that conversation, we're not making any progress towards treatment, we're not making any progress towards identification, and clearly the way of doing things that we have done in the past of relegating all of that negativity to some distant partition of the mind is not what we need to do to solve this problem. Having that conversation, bringing people together, and sharing each other's experiences in a confidential environment is what we're trying to accomplish here. And that's how we start down that road of mental health awareness. Without the talking, without the sharing, without the caring that those groups provide, a lot of that, maybe suicide goes on unchecked, it goes on unnoticed, it happens by surprise. And we shouldn't be surprised by this anymore. We should know what is going on with each other. We're a community together, ultimately. And part of what NAMI is trying to bring to the campus is that sharing, that moment where you connect with somebody in that group as a peer, as a friend, as somebody you can trust with your mental illness.
I do want to mention that who is funding these groups that for NAMI to come on campus is Los Rios College Federation of Teachers, and so we really need to have a shout out for them because this would not happen without the teachers union behind this.
And if I haven't made it clear that we're very thankful to be given this opportunity. We know how effectual these groups can be. We have national data that shows that these groups really do open up eyes and start people walking down that path towards mental wellness. Our groups are confidential. We do keep them divided between family members, friends, and peers because those groups need to establish themselves as little communities, and that helps erase that feeling of being alone, which is really something that pervades in mental illness treatment, is people feel isolated with their symptoms and their hurt and their pain. But these groups show you that there are other people living their lives with those conditions, with those symptoms, and living sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But the lesson to be learned from that is that even amidst failure, there's an opportunity to share and succeed and try again. That's what we're all about, is trying to bring that conversation to the campus and help people start down the road towards better mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. We are currently trying to get it all set up with times and everything, and we'll set up. Next slide.
It's all verified.
Oh, okay. Is it?
We're ready to go with those dates.
Oh, you're good. We're good. I'll hand it back over to Peg then. She knows.
So, spread the word. October 31st, Halloween, if you're not out there trick-or-treating, come join us up at 3rd floor.
I will be your facilitator for that meeting, so look forward to seeing you there.
Okay. Now, okay, there you go, Connection Peer Support Group. We've got a couple signs out in the back if you want to take a picture of them. And now, drum roll, please. Yeah. The Design Hub.
So thanks, guys. So we got involved with one of Peg's students who was a Design Hub member, and she was given this simple task that said, check this list of resources and see which ones are still good. And she was struggling. What's it? Yeah, yeah, it was a long list. But some of you may have been online to try to find a resource, and they're circular and dive 10 pages deep and find out that it doesn't really exist. And we found it was a real mess, actually, to try to get to the resources that might be appropriate for anybody. And so I looked at that and said, no, this can't be. We need an actual technical support group to help put this together. So I recruited Kevin and Saren, and were you the two that were on it? Was there? Okay. And we said, okay, we got to have a database. So you'll see that now we have a thing. We have a thing that you can actually get to. crisis resource page. It's not well publicized yet, but that's okay. But the main thing is we're trying to get stuff all in one place in a format that's useful. The one that we have the best is the shelter page. This is all validated data, which I'll go over in a moment. But if you do a search, these are ones that are in the database now. And you can look at it and you go, okay, well, which one of these am I going to choose? And you can look on each one, and it tells you additional information that's really hard to find to see if that's the resource that fits your needs. And so our goal then is to have a database that is easy to read, easy to get to, and gives you the information right off the bat. So that turned out to be maybe a little bit harder than what we thought originally, because we're in year 2 of the project right now. And the tough part has been this validated database. I don't know if any of you have been online and you give somebody a call and they're no longer there, or the website doesn't exist, or they don't really serve the needs that you're looking for. So we decided that we wanted a validated database, and Kevin and Saren came up with the process and the method to be able to do that. Since it's a big project, we decided that we would hit 4 topics only. That may not be the topics you need, but it'll clearly, if that's not what you need, then our page is not for you, and it'll be obvious that that's the case. So far, we've got the shelters done for the local area that we could do. We wanted a consistent format, all the information in one place, and we want a web interface. That's the Wi-Fi part. How do we get there and do that? So the next thing is when you do this technical stuff, you got to figure out who's going to be using it. So our number 1 was individuals in need, but we don't really know the access method for individuals in need because they're so varied. So we decided that our first one would be counselors, then teachers, and then of course any of the people giving us the information would have the access to this also. So that's sort of our user group. Now I want to turn it over to Kevin because he's the one that kind of did most of this work, and I'd like him to explain what we go through to validate one of these so that when you're on the site, you can feel comfortable that what we've got is real.
All right, hi. All right, so my name's Kevin. I'm a programming intern at the Design Hub here on ARC. And so my job on this project was to organize the data that we're collecting on all these services. And part of that process is this form you see here. And again, that's partially why we're talking to you today, is we need help filling these out. So we have a form that you can fill out about all of these services that we have. And I have a link here for you. So this is what you'd be looking at when you make a call. We have shelters that need to be called, and we need to verify that they still exist, that they're still offering services, what kind of services they offer, and who they service. And all those little details, we have hundreds of places to call, and we need someone talking to the people there and getting these details straight for us, because we don't want people showing up to a shelter, maybe like a single adult with a child, and being told that we don't take children here, and they have to go find somewhere else, right? So this is the type of information we're looking for, and we need people making calls. So for instance, if we're filling this one out really quick, I can just show you a quick demo of the first page. We need to know the name of the location. Let's make it a shelter. And so we find out, we make sure they want to be on our website. Some places don't want to be. You know, we have things like battered women's shelters that need to be confidential, places that, for whatever reason, only take references from other services. So we need to find out how they feel about being on our website, being published, and then we need to ask them questions. We need to know how to contact them. So for instance, maybe it's a phone number, a website, an email address. We need to know where they're at. And so for some locations, it is confidential, right? As I mentioned, we have battered women's shelters. We don't want, ex-boyfriends hunting them down, so we have that option there. We need to know, zip code would be nice even for those so that we can direct people to the ones closest to them. We want to at least help them out in that way. And then, of course, we need to know who they serve. So, not every service, unfortunately, is LGBT friendly. So we do have to ask that question. Not every service is gender neutral. We have shelters for men, we have shelters for women, we have shelters for single adults who have children with them, we have shelters just for unoccupied minors. And we need to get all of this information. We need to know if they can help people with disabilities, if they provide transportation. And this is what we're looking for. We need people to make phone calls, talk to all these services, and verify this information before we can start publishing it and helping people find the shelter or the mental health services or the food that meet their needs. So we'll go back here. Oh. So yeah, so basically what we're doing is we're going to take all this data that's entered into our forms, and it's a lot. We need contact, location, types of services provided, and then you can see here with this flow chart, it gets kind of complicated. This is the programming end of it, and I won't go into too much detail. It's a lot of work, though, and that's important to realize. We've been working on this. This is our 3rd semester, and this will get it to the web page. We're trying to do these steps so that people who need these services don't have to go through this, right? So we want to be able to have just a simple web page. You type in some keywords, and you get results, and you can get the help that you need. All right. Well, thank you.
Don't go too far, Kevin.
Sure.
Don't go too far, Randy. We can't do this alone. That's me. This is the real. This is a design hub. We really mean this. We can't do this alone. So we would like to invite you to join Life is Worth the Walk or NAMI, or go see Randy at the Design Hub so that we can roll this out maybe in next fall for the students. So can't thank you enough for taking those pages and making them something, because they weren't doing any good on a file on a drive. In the meantime, you're going to start seeing these pop up around campus, and there will be just little community resources. I gave you each a flyer that was in there. These have all been vetted, and one side are more crisis-oriented resources, and the other side are more chronic or longer support type resources. So I've put some of these at the table. If you're interested and want to take a handful, please do that. And I think this concludes the For Students from Students College Hour. Okay.